Hassan has done. And his take on the impact of Ali on the Quran itself is really, really interesting. And I want to read a couple of sentences from it. So let me quote from Hassan's book. The magnitude of this statement only goes to further support the Prophet's sentiments regarding Ali. This is page 87. The Prophet had designated him as one of the scribes who would write down the text of the Quran. And Ali's role in the establishment of the written versions of the Holy Book is deemed as one of his most important contributions to Islam. Ali himself said, "By God, not one verse has been revealed, of which I know not where it was revealed, what it concerns, and its subject matter. Besides the circumstances of the revelation and the esoteric meaning of every verse, Ali knew specifically which verses were definite, muhkam, and which were ambiguous, mutashabih, and how to distinguish between verses that were meant for general or particular applicability." And then he gives this amazing quote from Ali, right? This is, and he footnotes all the sources. Everything I'm reading out is, is factually researchable. Ali said the following: "If I wished, I could load 70 camels with the exegesis of just the opening surah of the Quran." Thank you, Ali, and thank you, Hassan, for bringing him to life to the English-speaking world. I mean, I've known about Ali for years, ever since teaching Islamic studies. I lectured at Birkbeck College under Lord Combermere, and then I lectured at the Muslim College under Dr. Zaki Badawi. And Badawi was a true scholar himself, unbelievable, trained at the Al-Azhar University. He would love the fact this book has finally come out. He and I had some fantastic conversations about wisdom and, the pursuit of knowledge. So, yeah, Ali, 70 camels worth of exegesis just to comment on one verse, the opening surah, Fatiha it's called. Thank you. Yeah, I know what Ali means by that, because I've kind of done 70 camels worth, but okay, on the whole Quran. But I recognise a kindred spirit in Ali, because he was God intoxicated, like they said of Spinoza. He knew the depth of the Quran because he was there when it was being transmitted. He was watching as the divine downloads were taking place. And what I would love when my commentary is finally, published, because I'd like it to be published one day. If anyone wants to translate it into Arabic and Persian and Urdu, please contact me. It's a major work. We'd have to get it funded, and I'd love to have a research peace institute centre established in Medina, I think, where the Prophet is buried, and we can get that work underway. And it would be a gift to all Shias, all Sunnis, all Ismailis, all Sufis, and all Christians, and all Jews, and everyone on the planet. This is a book for all of us. This is one of the ironies of history. The Quran doesn't just belong to the so-called Muslims, because the definition of Islam given in the book is much, much broader than official Islam lets on. A true Muslim is simply someone who has surrendered their ego and has allowed the divine to take over their lives, the divine intelligence, not irrationally, not against reason, but with reason, and with love and with compassion. Now, once you realise that, that's what Gurdjieff and Ouspensky called the greater Sufism. Once you realise that, then history takes on a different hue. Of course, the tragedy is that what happened later is that Ali was then persecuted. Because he was the holder of Gnosis, he knew the Quran. He was married to his daughter, for God's sake, Fatima, the queen of women, and he knew the esoteric meaning of the Quran. He should have become caliph, but he wasn't, because the businessmen took over, And I'm not saying anything against Abu Bakr and Uthman and Umar. They were all righteous people in their own way, but they didn't have anything like his depth. I'm just speaking as a scholar here. It's obvious if you look at the facts. And so the whole thing became a sort of business, Islam Inc., complete with armies and loot and expeditions and all that. That's not what Muhammad envisaged. It's not what Ali wanted. The flavour and tenor of Islam that became Islam Inc. Was not Muhammad's original intention. It wasn't Ali's. But in order to silence him, eventually he was killed. Poor old Ali was martyred. I mean, it's kind of a shocking thing that happened. And now to me that's an archetypal story. That's what happens whenever wisdom people appear in history. They get crucified or martyred or silenced. Look what happened to Gandhi, look what happened to Martin Luther King, look what happened to Jesus, look what happened to Ali, And it's going on now. The wisdom people of the planet are still silenced. There are intellectuals suffering in prisons all over the planet for saying the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. That's why the Taoists wisely say, guard your silence sometimes. I live in Europe. We have freedom of thought, freedom of speech. It's guaranteed by the European Union, and by the French Republic, bless it. And I have a duty to speak out on behalf of those that can't, and to say truth. I'm going to just read a couple of verses from the last of the Hamim surahs, which is Surah 46. Ahkaf, the winding sand tracks. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Mim. The revelation of the book is from God, the exalted in power, full of wisdom. We created not the heavens and the earth and all between them, but for just ends, and for a term appointed. But those who reject faith turn away from that, whereof they are warned. Very short, very sweet, very terse. These verses are pregnant with meaning, and in my commentary I go into great detail. I think the most important thing here is to say that this book comes from God, who is exalted in power, but also full of wisdom. Most often in this world, people who are in power lack wisdom. Look at the politicians around. And people who are wise lack power. Well, God is the apex of being, as Mullah Sadra said in his ontological theology of Islam. And therefore God is the most powerful, but also the most wise. I mean, I can't wait, because so often you're working in a kind of semi-corrupt institution, and you go to the person in charge, the guy in power, and say, hey, there's this terrible thing happening, and they look at you and, ignore you or try and squash you. That's because the people in power are not wise. And likewise, if you find wise people, they often lack power. So what's so beautiful about the Quran is its faith, constantly reiterated, is that the actual God behind this universe, the real divine intelligence behind everything, actually is the all-powerful. My father used to call God the Almighty in his Warwickshire English language. The Almighty was his name for God. I love my father. He was a wise man. So the Almighty is also all-wise. So that's what we should remember when we go about our lives. Next time you're tempted to do a Boris Johnson and lie to get power, think about that. Or a Matt Hancock. These people have no respect for the Almighty, and make a mockery of wisdom, and their equivalents in many other countries, sadly. Right, so that's my homage to Ali and his amazing new biography in the Quran. And gosh, yeah, it's been a great ride. Now I want to finish finally with a poem, which is my wont. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm also a poet. I'm going to end with a very short one. This is an older poem. This is from volume 1 of my poems. I've been writing since my teen years. I wanted to be a poet. I hope I qualify now. It's called The Paradox, poem number 203. All are asleep who could be whole, and in their safety refuge take, and still are sleeping. We who remain awake are those who guard the dawn, and in our search for wholeness would be healing. Everything a paradox, openings and closures simultaneously, a laugh and a tear, a clown's brow crowned with silver dreaming. Assemble here, children of the apocalypse. Your dawn is coming, and your fear has trembled into gold and rainbow shimmered yearning. All who bewail the passage of past lives, there is no greater size of heart can yet be taken. Soul's hugeness sunders to itself a double aching. Yet all that can be said is in the gap, the flight of reason to its absence. Life multiplies its paradox by living. All are asleep still, though the angel muses blow their trump, and in their quiet beauty glory in the love that ever deepens through its giving.